Attributed to one of the three mother letters, the Thoth Tarot Hanged Man represents the element of water, or as Crowley calls it, the spiritual function of water. Evolving its meaning throughout the Aeons, the Hanged Man conveys some of the most profound magical secrets. Before examining those, let me remind you to subscribe if you find the content valuable and entertaining. Also, check my Etsy and Gumroad pages, as there might be products to help your practice. The Hanged Man was picked by my viewers over universe, adjustment and fortune. Respecting that choice and appreciating all votes, I'll discuss some of my favorite symbolism in the card. Shapes and forms. The Hanged Man's posture is rather peculiar. The legs form a right angle and an upside down number 4. Also a cross standing above and connected to an equilateral triangle formed by the arms stretched at a 60-degree angle. Essentially, the Hanged Man expresses the golden dawn symbol of the triangle and the cross. And according to the Book of Thoth, this gives the symbol of the triangle surmounted by the cross, which represents the descent of the light into the darkness in order to redeem it. Unquote. Relation to other cards. Like other decks, the Thoth Tarot associates the number 4 with the Emperor, symbolizing the mind's reasoning and rational faculties. The 3 or the triangle is linked to the Empress, relating to consciousness's imaginative qualities. This can be found in the card's number 12 as 1 plus 2 equals 3, and through this posture the card expresses rational thinking above desire, or perhaps rational thinking fueled by desire. According to Eli Surabet, this stage occurs when the seeker deliberately stops the wheel of fortune and the pot of Thoth, occupying the same area within the pillar of mercy. While that stands for activity, the Hanged Man represents passivity, and together they balance the whole. Through this, one stops the closed internal pattern, opening themselves and immersing in the eternal motion. The seeker becomes the object of desire, and therefore the subjective and objective selves unite. More on that by the end of the video. Hebrew letter. Being the 23rd path, the letter Mem connects hot splendor to Geburah's severity. This is why scholars say it displays the image of severity. Mem is 40 and it's spelled Mem Yot Mem, enumerating 90. Also 650 when using Mem final, which is 600. Although that means water, it really implies all things liquid, and particularly life-promoting and creating fluids like blood, amniotic fluid and semen. It is regarded as astral fluid and the underlying consistency of everything, and supposedly you can think of it as the underlying principle of fluidity sustaining the whole universe. Mem, or 40 Crowley reviews, is the might of the tetragrammaton fully developed by Malkuth, the symbol of the universe under the Demiurgus, and like the Om mantra, the M sound alludes to the return to eternal silence. Meanings and Aeons. Like Shin and Aleph symbolize baptism in fire and air, Mem suggests baptism in water, and conventionally the Hanged Man represents the act of sacrifice, the supreme formula of adeptship during the Aeon of Osiris. Also Aeon and Yao, adepts of which actually invented it. On the contrary, the Book of Thoth views the sacrifice notion as incorrect to the current Aeon of Horus and the fully evolved human being. The Aeon of Isis. Associated with the mother's womb and water, the Aeon of Isis viewed that as an actual sacrifice of a pregnant woman. Then the card was called the Drowned Man, as the baby was positioned upside down in the womb. While I'd rather not discuss that, it explains Atu 12's original attribution to water. During the Aeon of Isis, people viewed all birth as an emanation from the womb, perfectly sufficient without male intervention. They believed everything emerged from and eventually returned to the great goddess. The Aeon of Osiris. Air is moist and hot, while water is cold and moist, and fire is dry and hot. Having mutual qualities with either, air is sympathetic to both. Corresponding to air, the Aeon of Osiris was one of compromise. It viewed sacrifice and one's willingness to be tortured and killed for the well-being of others as a gigantic step toward enlightenment. The Aeon of Horus. Assigned to the Hebrew letter Shin, the Aeon of Horus moves away from the balance of sacrifices, redemption, and paying debts. Quote, in the former Aeon, that of Osiris, the element of air, which is the nature of that Aeon, is not unsympathetic either to water or to fire. Compromise was the mark of that period, but now under a fiery word of the Aeon. The watery element, so far the water is below the abyss, is definitely hostile unless the opposition is the right opposition, implied in marriage. But in this card the only question is of the redemption of the submerged element, and therefore everything is reversed. This idea of sacrifice is in the final analysis a wrong idea. Unquote. Water. Likening it to a spiritual appendix, Crowley notes that water is an element of illusion and also an evil legacy from the old Aeon. Though the Hanged Man is the card of the dying god, its role in the new deck is of a cenotaph. According to Cambridge Dictionary, the water is a public monument built to remember particular people. The Hanged Man serves as a manual on how to make things right if Dark Ages occur, yet things were initially wrong if they needed to be made right. Now the sacrifice, Crowley points out, is really the annihilation of the self in the beloved, the condition of progress, so it's not a sacrifice but a union. Connecting to everything. This is also the moment of orgasm, when the ego and the senses of separatedness are temporarily annihilated, and when that happens, one is connected to everything else in the cosmos. Apparently that includes the object of desire, which is the AGA, defined by all mystics as quote-unquote marriage. The relationship with the beloved, or the AGA, is very sexual, and the Thoth Tarot Hanged Man depicts that union. This explains why scholars like David Shoemaker note that the AGA often communicates to the person through the object of their attraction or crush. Colors. The whole card radiates green, and 3 green discs stand out. Being the color of Venus, green symbolizes grace, and the air above the water is also green, though permeated by the white of Keter. Green, Crowley explains, is the color of hope that lies in love. This is also depicted in older decks like the Golden Dawn or the Arthur Waite, where the figure is suspended from a tree or a pillar. That tree actually resembles Dalet, the 14th path, which attributes to Venus. One might look at cost is nothing less than the cosmic sacrifice that creates the universe. Eli Surabet views it as a suspension or crucifixion in space, which I think kinda complements the former. Snakes. That is also expressed by the serpent below the Ankros, which Crowley defines as the creator and destroyer who operates all change. The serpent of new light begins to steer new life in this inferior darkness of death. The Ankros is equivalent to the rosy cross, and the process depicted births a new child symbolized by the cold snake below the figure. This is emphasized by the card's color gradient. The white colors are at the top, whereas the darker and denser ones are at the bottom. It is white descending into matter. As a background, the tiny squares behind are the elemental tablets with their sigils and names representing all forces of nature. Esoteric titles. Atu-12's esoteric name in the Golden Dawn system is the Spirit of the Mighty Waters. Based on Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, the Hanged Man is called Stable Intelligence or Stable Consciousness. Meanings. According to the Book of Thoth, the behavior of Atu-12 is expressed through the following. Let not the waters swear on thy journeys to wed thee, and being come to shore, plant out the vine and rejoice without shame. The exact section recognizes enforced sacrifice, punishment, loss, fatal or voluntary suffering, defeat, failure, and death as the card's meanings. I don't know about you, but to me, these don't necessarily match the symbolism of the Thoth card. Feel free to let me know if you agree or disagree. Certainty and ecstasy. Quote, "It should be the chiefest aim of the wise to rid mankind of the insolence of self-sacrifice and the calamity of chastity. Fate must be slain by certainty and chastity by ecstasy." Unquote. One aspect of that is listening to Hadith's words and not pitying the fallen, and neither ending up consoling others or being consoled. Another is treating animals and kids with respect and even aiding them in various ways. The card also encourages helping others achieve identical transformation, not by redemption, but by recognizing and appreciating their starry nature. And to me, that kinda sounds like initiating an apocalypse. Supposedly, that's also what the Unfortunate describes as bringing the light into the world of shadows, but on a grand scale. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what yours is. Also, your thoughts on the Hanged Man and my review of it. Otherwise, like this video if it provides value, subscribe for more content like this, check my other works and books, especially the PDFs I made on the fields of operation and SRP, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for your time.